Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melisa Caprio.
Hello and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave. How's everybody doing? I hope you guys are doing well. Today I have my favorite returning guest, Reverend Gregory Possman on. And Gregory, for those of you who don't know, Gregory is a Physic Trance Channel, and he's going to join me in just a few minutes. And for those of you who listen to my show all the time, I know you love it when Gregory's on. So yeah, he's back again today. I hope I sound okay. I don't know. I got a tooth pulled 2 days ago, so I feel like my S's sound a little funny, so I'm still a little sore, but I'm okay. It was a molar in the top tooth, so I feel like I sound a little off. So if I do, that's why. I just had my tooth pulled 2 days ago. It was an unsavable tooth, so you got to make those decisions. Sometimes it's just easier to yank it. So for those of you who are my returning people who listen to me all the time, thank you again for being here with me. I love that you guys show up every week. And for those of you who are new tuning into my show for the first time, welcome. Thank you for being here. A little about me. I'm an author, I'm a photographer, and I have a book, and it's titled Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams. And in my book, there are 30 manifesting stories along with photographs that I took of the contributors' manifesting postcards. And in it, I included writing exercises. It helps us get clear on things we want to manifest, like money, health, abundance, career, and so much more. And there's a whole bunch of exercises in there to learn just how to do that. So if you're interested in doing some inner work and reading people's incredible journeys of inspiration and transformation and manifesting, you can go to your favorite bookstore and you can purchase a copy. If you have any questions about it, just reach out to me. I also share a magical message that I like to post on Mondays, and it's an image of a manifesting postcard that I photograph with an affirmation. And I like to work with affirmations. I work with them all the time. I think they're very powerful for them to become new beliefs. And so each week I'll select a new one with an image and to go together. And this week, and since this is on my mind because I have a big trip coming up, it's travel. That's the journey. And I think traveling inspires us to discover, things that are good for the soul as we go to new cities and countries and destinations, right? It gets the juices in our blood flowing, and we get a chance to see these new places and do these new things and eat new food and meet new people with strange yet charming accents. And we get to know more cultures, and it's so fun to get out of our own little area and experience life in a different location. And I think it's good for our soul and our health, right? Because it sets our body, it resets our body, and it frees us from any stress that we may be having that's from our daily life. So it helps us see things from a new perspective, and it's good to leave our comfort zone. And we may learn something new by traveling, and journeys change us, and it helps us relax and unwind, and it can make us so much happier and more fulfilled in life. I think it benefits our mental health along with our physical health. Getting us out of our routine is so good for us. And of course for me, I take my camera, so it's a whole other level. I love to photograph when I'm traveling. I don't photograph as much locally, the local Florida landscape as I probably should, but when I'm traveling, boy, that camera is out. So much has been said about the profound impact travel can have on us. In particular, its ability to change us. I mean, songs have been sung, poems have been written, blog posts have been crafted, travel blogs are everywhere. Look at Instagram and you'll see it all over the place. So, and it's an ode to the life-changing magic that we get to experience when we travel the world. So if you can, if it's in your if you have the ability to do so, I highly recommend you travel a little when you have the opportunity. It's, to me, life-changing. To see these magical messages that I post each week, you can find them across my social media platforms, Postcards to the Universe. And if you're on Facebook and you want to join a public Facebook group, I have one called Postcards of Love, and it's very uplifting. So please join me there. Okay, so next week I have integrative energy practitioner Lauren Fonville on, and she specializes in helping her clients release stress, anxiety, and trauma from their bodies, and she guides her clients on a journey of self-healing. So that's what we're going to talk about next week, self-healing. But to get to my guest today, Reverend Gregory Possman, he began as a Psychic Trance Channel in 1991, and he channels over 40 light beings, including Sananda, the Archangels, Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel, as well as Master Teacher Spirit Quan Yin, Mary, and 5 members of the Council of Shambhala and others. He also channels the Pleiadians, Siriuns, and Venusians, and Reverend Possman performs workshops throughout the world and offers recorded channeled private sessions by phone, and you can see each month he has a free channeled message, and it's available at his website, Gregory, Gregory, Possman, Possman.com. But today, Gregory's going to be live channeling Askara, the leader of the Venusian Earth installations. And maybe a special anonymous guest will surprise us. We'll see. Welcome, Gregory. Thanks for coming back.
My pleasure, as always. Good to be here.
Oh, good. I'm excited. Okay, so like I said, now that you've been on my show a lot of people are like, they love when you're on. I get messages like, oh, Gregory's on. I want to listen. How do I listen? Like, it's not that hard. Just go to the site, push the button. There you go. Listen. And if you miss it, yeah, and if you miss it, it's always, the recording's always up. So, Gregory, just share briefly what a channel does for those who may be tuning in for the first time ever,
So there's a lot of different ways to channel. Typically, we talk about conscious channels versus unconscious or trance channels. I started off as a trance channel. I can do conscious channeling now, which is a way of tuning into beings and staying conscious at the same time. But I still think that the trance channeling is really my favorite. And I think that as a person does this for a longer and longer period of time, there is less and less distance, if you will. That's not really an accurate way of saying it, but you're more connected. You get more connected to the other side. And then things like dreams and lucid dreaming and naps and even brief periods of what I'll call daydreaming can lead to some really interesting messages from the other side. And they're not always clear. I don't always know exactly what they're referring to, but I realize that over time I will know. In other words, maybe something that's going to take place a week from now, a day from now, an hour from now, but it stays in the back of my mind. And then, great example, I was driving home. I had a session with a client a day or two later, and I hear the name Kilgon, Kilgon, in my head. And I think you and I talked about this last time, perhaps.
We did.
And this is an entity that I had not channeled before, but was going to come through and help this individual that I was working with a day or two later. So, you're driving your car along and all of a sudden you get this thing in your head, this message, and it makes it a little difficult to stay focused on the road because you're wondering, I'm wondering what in the world, who's Kilgon? What's a Kilgon?
Right.
I've never heard of that. Is that a new Kleenex? Is that, what is that? I don't know
Right. What is it?
And So it may take a little bit of time, but eventually the rest of the message comes through and then it begins to make some sense. So over the period of 30 years, one gets used to that. You just kind of say, okay, well, I may not know what it is today, but maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, it'll come back. And it always does. It's like a circle, a cycle. It always comes around. And so that's kind of the way life is at this stage of the game. And I think the other thing that I can say that your listeners might be able to relate to is the fact that we live on so many different levels. We're multidimensional beings. We may focus 80-90% of our concentration on this life in the physical, but we live on so many different levels. And when this becomes obvious, it's a little unnerving, because you don't know exactly what that level is or why you're even getting that information. But those who are sensitive and those who are able to be open-minded enough to believe in it give themselves an opportunity to say, hey, what's it all about? What is this information? Why am I having these images? Why am I seeing, hearing, feeling these things?
Right.
So that's kind of the challenge that I think we live with in this physical world.
So Kilgon, is that it? Kilgon?
Kilgon, yes.
I keep wanting to say I want to say something
else.
Okay.
You want to say something else.
Kilgon, is Kilgon come up now more for you?
Yes, Kilgon comes through more frequently. It's the newest entity that I've started to channel and comes through more often than before, basically because what I believe, and it's what's true for me, is that this entity helps people move through some of the self-sabotage and the curses that they may have placed on themselves in other lifetimes, which the prerequisite for that, of course, is that one believe in reincarnation. So a little difficult to understand what that's about if you're not a believer in reincarnation, and that's fine. Everybody has their own truth, and they need to follow that truth, whatever it is.
Well, when you see a client, I don't know if I've ever asked you this before, but when you see a client one-on-one, do they request who they want to have a reading with? Or is it that they just, whoever shows up for them is the right entity for that person, or is it both?
All of the above.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is the majority of time, many times I'm asked to ask them if they have a particular request.
Okay.
And most of the time their response is whoever comes through will be perfect. And then whoever's sitting on my shoulders, so to speak, comes through.
Okay.
Other times they'll want to talk to Michael, or they'll want to talk to Mary, or they'll want to talk to, whoever it is they choose.
The big five.
Absolutely.
Or the big three.
They can talk to them. Yeah. Who's latest on the hit parade, whatever that looks like, Probably dating myself by even saying that, but
oh my God, I love it.
Anyway, that's kind of how it works, yes.
And so if somebody's working on a particular issue, let's say it's self-sabotage or it's resentment or whatever, and they're speaking to whoever shows up, we can say Michael, they'll get information that is specific to them on how they can resolve whatever emotional issue that they're going through. Is that a lot what it looks like when they're getting counseled by, say, Mary or Michael? Because I know you move yourself out of the way, so your Gregory is not there. I mean, you're there, but you're not there.
Well, my physical body is here, but most of my consciousness is floating around somewhere else. So, yes, they tune in to the energy of that particular issue. Oftentimes, many times, most of the time, they'll explain it. There are people out there who are what I call sealed. In other words, their information is not available because for whatever reason, before they came to this planet, they decided they did not want that information revealed to anyone, not even to themselves, which doesn't make a lot of sense to us, but it does happen. And if they cannot answer a question from the other side, they'll talk about the reason. They'll say, we can't say anything about that, and this is the reason. So, but 99% of the time, yes, they will tune into that situation. Oftentimes it's from another lifetime, a totally different experience, and it's carried over into this lifetime in order to learn whatever lesson wasn't learned before.
Right. Yeah.
So that's typically what they'll talk about. And that's the reason people call me. They want a totally different perception. They want a different explanation of what's going on. Otherwise, they wouldn't need to talk to somebody from the other side.
Right. So interesting.
The other issue that arises is there can be, and there have been, a lot of people who have called with a medical issue. And I am not a medical intuitive, and I don't pretend to be. There are a lot of people out there who do an excellent job of that. But oftentimes they want to know, why can't a doctor diagnose what I have? Why is it that I'm having these symptoms, but nobody can tell me what the source is? And the reason the body generates those symptoms is to move that person to work on that particular challenge or issue from another experience. Call it a simultaneous lifetime, whatever it is. So then they are driven or drawn to talk to somebody that they normally would not, because they may not even believe in channeling.
Right.
But since they've tried everything and they can't get any satisfaction, they end up on my doorstep, so to speak. And I'm used to that. That happens frequently, and that's fine. That's okay. And then they'll get the explanation. It'll start to make sense to them. Now, my question to you is, why are you going to Ireland and England? And maybe I'm giving away more information than I should, and I apologize for that.
No, that's okay. It's no problem. I'm actually I don't know, I've had this call to go to England for a while, and it just so happens that at the time I want to go, a friend is doing a writer's workshop in Ireland, and since they're right next to each other, I'm doing a little hopping from one place to the other, and I really don't know why. I just have this desire to go. There's something calling me there, and so I'm going with it. I'm trusting that there's a reason, and I'm going with it.
So my theory is that that's the story on the surface, and the curiosity will be, when you return, what's the sub-story? What's the subconscious or unconscious story? Why did you go there? And when you get over there and you're in that area, you'll probably remember the reason that you've gone there. And that's fascinating. That's the key. That's the gold. That's the gold nugget in your journey.
Well, we'll talk about that next time you're on, when I'm back. Right.
That sounds great. I look forward to that.
All right, let's go. Gregory, let's do our break now, and then we're going to get to Ascara when we come back. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
The rainbow is God's promise of hope for you and me. And though the clouds hang heavy and the sun we cannot see, we know above the dark clouds that fill the stormy sky, hope's rainbow will come shining through when the clouds have drifted by. Teresa Caprio is the president and founder of Rainbow Guardian Inc., a nonprofit 501c3 serving the intellectually challenged/developmentally disabled, including autism. Teresa started the foundation in 1995 so she could help make a better life for her intellectually challenged daughter. Her dream is that the Rainbow Guardian will provide the necessary tools and education to help the public understand the special needs population, because it's often discarded in mainstream society. To find out more or make a donation in support, please go to www.rainbowguardian.org. Rainbow Guardian's special mission is to see these unique people live a happy, full life and have a future of liberty and equality.
Welcome back. So today I have Reverend Gregory Possman on, and he is a psychic trance channel, and he is going to be channeling live here right now Askara, who is the leader of the Venusian Earth installations. But before I let you start, Gregory, who is Askara, and and what do you know why they wanted to come through today?
I think the reason that Askara wanted to come through is because of fear.
Okay.
And I won't steal the thunder, so to speak, but
Okay.
there's a tremendous amount of fear about all that's going on the planet, whether it's the Russia-Ukraine situation, whether it's the epidemic, the all of that. Where's that leading? What's going on with all that? There are a tremendous number of fears about the media with all of the alien invasions that we've seen in movies and television programs, and are they going to eat my face? Are they going to take over my body? Am I going to have an alien baby? Or
Right.
and please, I am reverent about this. I'm not making fun of that. It sounds like I am. I don't mean to. I know there are a lot of people that have had some pretty unpleasant experiences.
Sure.
And so, I believe that that's the reason that they want to come through.
Okay.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Great, Oscar. And so they are an extraterrestrial being, just for people who
Definitely.
are like, yeah, okay. And then you
Absolutely.
said a special anonymous guest. Do you know who that is, or
Not a
am
clue.
I just?
Not a clue. As a matter of fact, I'd forgotten about that, and I'm
Okay.
glad you reminded me.
Okay. Okay. So when we come back, because you channel, and then we take a break, and you're still in channeled mode, and then we come back, and I'll still be speaking with Askara. So I'll just ask Askara, and if they want to move out of the way, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too. Whatever,
Absolutely.
yeah, whatever. All right. So I'm gonna let you do your thing. Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go.
We are the one called Askara, and we are grateful for this opportunity to merge our light and our energy with you. We are indeed what one might call the leader of the Venusian Earth installations, of which at this time there are 11. And we imagine that many of you are curious about where they are, what they are, and why they are. They are actually what you would call mass. In other words, they do take up time and space, but it is to understand that we are able to alter them in a very powerful way, and in a period of approximately 13 seconds, they can become absolutely mobile. At this moment in time, They are located in very aquatic environments, very deep in your oceans. They tend to move around to different locations based upon need. With that, we will stop and give you an opportunity to ask questions. What do you wish to know?
Well, thank you, Ascara, for wanting to come through today. And I was talking to the human, that Gregory, that you are speaking through, and was asking what you wanted to share with us today. And he was saying that there are some things around fear that are happening on the planet, and that you had some insight on that for us. So I'm going to let you share what your thoughts are and what you think that we should know right now.
The first aspect of fear that you are all dealing with are the threats of the violence that is created between the Russians and the Ukrainians. And the greatest fear that many of you experience, and what we find projected through our reading of your minds, so to speak, is that nuclear holocaust or war is going to take place, destruction on your planet. We will stop that as best we can, and we are very, very accomplished at stopping that. We will not allow your planet to be destroyed by any sort of force that is atomic or nuclear in nature. So, for those who are concerned and worried about that threat, you have our promise that we will do everything possible to prevent that. That is a huge fear in the collective, the human collective.
Wow. I mean, I know that's a fear. I hadn't really thought about it, that it was a huge fear in the collective. Well, that's good to hear. So how does that transmute to, we've had a lot of violence also with guns, and it seems to be on an upswing of the hatred and the violence and the racism and the oppression, wanting to oppress women. That's back in the news right now, wanting to take control of our bodies, the guns and the situation, the shootings. There's been a lot of shootings. So what can we know? What do we need to know about that? Is this happening because we're afraid? Why is this happening?
It is not happening because as a collective you are afraid. It is happening because those who have historically been in power are terrified that that power is being taken away. And the reason that there is, as Mary has pointed out, a massive infusion of feminine energy into the consciousness of humanity is so that that feminine energy can become more dominant, so to speak, more prevalent. Perhaps dominance is not the right word. It's very difficult for us to choose the right vocabulary or verbiage that implies the energetic aspect of what is going on. But you see what we will call the masculine digging its heels in the sand, so to speak, attempting to exacerbate tremendous power over the feminine through the use of fear and hatred and violence. And you have a phrase on your planet, it is darkest before the dawn. You are seeing that darkness rear its head, so to speak. It's like a fire-breathing dragon that suddenly comes out of the cave and threatens all of the villagers, if you will. But the truth of the matter is, this particular process is temporary, and it will not last much longer. And then there will be a period of grace and peace, and that is when what we call the divine blueprint, what you are familiar with, is in fact created in a more obvious manner in your physical world. And that will, of course, be the consciousness that all, regardless of their race, color, creed, origin, or anything else, all individuals are connected. They are all part of the one. And so for those who are spiritually inclined on your planet, there's a tremendous sense of that feminine energy being invoked into their being so that they can lead the way for this kind of connectivity.
Okay, so what should we be doing? What can I do personally? What can people listening do personally to hold, I don't know, is it hold space for that energy? I don't exactly know how to ask the question. Should we be praying? Should we be imagining? What should we be doing? What to give us some kind of, I feel like sometimes it feels like things are out of our control and we have no control, but we obviously do have more control. So how do we utilize that for the good of all?
As you have been advised, it is appropriate to send white light into your own heart. It is appropriate to connect with your own soul. And of course, you want to know how to do that. It isn't a question of how. It's a question of intention. The reason the question is so difficult to ask is because you do not know what the right question to ask is. And the truth of the matter is, those of you who have come here, those of you who are here, many of you have the intention of bringing forth this divine blueprint. You are here to raise the frequency of the planet. You are here to quell the fear, and that can be done in 1,000 different ways. And that is why the answer to your question is not a sort of empirical truth. It's not a matter of what any one individual might do. It's a question of what your soul leads and guides you to do. Now, we will tell you this. At night, when each of you go to sleep, you can ask we, the Venusians, to enter into the dream time, enter into that space. We will invoke color, we will invoke energy, and we may invoke images into your experience. And then hopefully you will remember them when you awaken. And those will be clues as to what you might do that following day in order to create the energy that you are here for, the energy that you are designed to be here for. And sometimes it will not come. Sometimes you will not experience it. But then in a moment of what you might call enlightenment, it will suddenly become clear what the right thing to do is. It may not make any rational or logical sense. It is the very reason why the man asked you why you were taking the journey that you are about to embark upon. He also explained to you that you live on many different levels, and whatever is revealed to you in those varying levels begins to make some sense after a period of time has passed.
Yes, that is very true. I'm looking forward to that trip, as I told him, the man. You said something that we humans like to say it's darkest before the dawn. And it feels very dark in a lot of ways right now with a lot of violence. So when can we expect the dawn? Is it something that's, I mean, we measure time linear here, so it's hard to imagine that it already exists on another level. I understand that. But like I said, if we're on Earth, the Earth plane, we want to see a linear timeline. So when can we expect to see these shifts actually physically take form?
We suggest to you that the moment now is the best moment.
Okay.
And you, of course, will wonder what that means. And it means that the moment that you can recognize the light that is inside of you, whether you call it the creator light, extraterrestrial light, soul light, starlight, use whatever term you wish. The moment you recognize that you have a choice to experience that light in this moment, that your morphic or auric field is filled with that light, and that you have the ability and the right to experience that light here and now, at this moment. And then, how do you take advantage of that? You give yourself permission to stop focusing on all the fear.
Okay.
And some will say you are burying your head in the sand like an ostrich might do. That is okay. They can say that. That is their opinion. You are not here to satisfy their expectations of you. You are here to satisfy the expectations of your soul. As you begin to focus on that light that generates from inside each of you, you give yourself permission to extend that light out into the auric field around you. And nothing of an evil nature can pierce that auric field. It is a field of protection. It is a field of choice and decision. And that is what we, who consider ourselves to be of a very high level of intelligence, have learned. So, as a collective, as you merge with all of those who are experiencing that light in themselves, you begin to enforce or strengthen or enliven that energy field. And you begin to feel protected. You begin to feel as if only the best is going to happen in your world, and you are going to create only the best. And what happens to everyone else, what happens out there in the world, so to speak, is not happening in your world. As more and more people on your planet continue and move into that space, into that consciousness, you increase the vibrational frequency of your race, of your planet, and of everything around you.
That's beautiful. I love that. Askara, we have to take a break. So we're going to take our break here, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. So everybody stay tuned. It's very interesting. Be back.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind,
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back. So I have Askara, the leader of the Venusian Earth installations here, who's being channeled by Reverend Gregory Possman. So Askara, I love what you said before the break about us each tapping into the collective to raise the vibration, so to speak, and, focus on those things that we want to manifest in the world. So how does each of us individually do that? Is it focusing on white light? Like, how do we each do it in our own little way?
You each find what one might call your spiritual path, your practice, your technique. For some it is Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, prayer, contemplation. For some it is riding a horse or painting or dancing. There are a million ways to find it, and your way of finding it must be found out by you. It is not something that you can go to the mountaintop and ask the guru about. It is not something that you find necessarily by reading a particular book, though it can happen that way. It is the experience of life, which is also an experience of elimination. Recently, the man Ashid began making candles, and he found it to be fascinating and interesting. He never had any desire to do it, but now he enjoys it. He loves to bake. He enjoys swimming laps in a pool. He absolutely loves spending time with children. And he is finding that all of those activities create this sort of connection to his soul that he absolutely loves and craves. So, again, you ask, what is the empirical truth of how to do this? Each must discover it for themselves. It may be arranging flowers. It may be growing vegetables and fruits. It may be harvesting them and cooking them into some sort of combination, so to speak. But whatever it is, once you find it, you don't count the minutes doing it. You allow yourself to become fascinated by it, and you give yourself permission to enjoy it thoroughly. So, you can study all of the mystics and the ancients, and you can say, well, they have the answer. But no, the answer lies within you. The answer is your answer. It's yourself who will teach you what that path looks like.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me. And when we first started, you were talking about the collectiveness of the fear of what's going on in the minds of humans. And, the old paradigm is trying to hold on, using fear as a tactic. And it just so happens that, recently it's come, people are talking about, when they talked about the pandemic, that they believe, some people really strongly believe that it was purposely released from a lab into our environment. And I don't know if I hold that belief, to do harm to humans. And then another thing came to me actually just today, about somebody sent me something about artificial intelligence, and how those new AIs that they're creating are going to be the new aliens, and they're really going to do us harm in the future. They're going to take over, and that is not a belief that I hold on to. They're saying that's the new alien, right? Like, as if aliens are all bad. And it's interesting that those fear stories kept getting flushed into our environment, and is it meant to control people? Why are those things coming out? What are your thoughts on, on the AI, the artificial intelligence?
The greatest way to control a human is to, first of all, introduce them to something they do not understand. Mm-hmm. And the second part of that process is to then allow fear to be generated from inside of them. Mm-hmm. That fear, of course, is a sort of projection that comes out of the mind. What is the most horrible thing that can happen to a human being? They could die. Mm-hmm. But is it the most horrible thing that could happen? If the soul lives on forever, mm-hmm. if the essence of every being lives on forever, how can death stop that? It cannot. Right. As a matter of fact, once they merge again with their soul, with their spirit, chances are they will become 100 times more powerful. Mm-hmm. So, if one allows one's enlightenment or awareness to increase and expand, they will avoid all of that fear. And once that fear is avoided, the very power of each individual becomes very obvious to them. And as that power becomes more obvious, the ability to utilize it becomes more obvious as well. One begins to realize that there is nothing to fear. Artificial intelligence, mm-hmm. that is something that has been around for hundreds of thousands of years. It is what we call an antique. But in your expertise and your experience, mm-hmm. it is something that is just another monster. Mm-hmm. In his message that he wrote this past month, because the man writes a message every month in a newsletter, he said he is sick and tired of the monsters. He is sick and tired of around every corner there is something else to be frightened of. And then he said, he has spent a great deal of time creating the life that he desires, mm-hmm. something that you are very, very focused upon. Mm-hmm. And so, now that he is experiencing that life, is he going to allow another imaginary monster to jump out of the closet and terrify him? The answer is no. As more and more of you come into that realization, you begin to realize that yes, in fact, you do create your reality. Mm-hmm. And that reality can be a beautiful one or a horrific one, whichever you choose. If you have a choice, why choose the horrific reality of monsters jumping out of the closet? There is always going to be another monster introduced by some form of force that mm-hmm. wants to put you into a place of fear.
That's perfect. That's what I think. I don't want to create another monster.
Who needs another monster?
Who needs another monster? Okay, so before you joined us, Ascara, there was a Gregory had said that an anonymous guest may want to come through. So I'm going to leave that up to you. If there's more that you need to share with us, or if some other entity wanted to say something, since we only have, about 6-7 minutes left. So you let me know.
So the one called Kilgon has been discussed.
Okay.
And Kilgon is waiting for an opportunity to speak.
Okay.
So we wish each and every one of you a great deal of love and fluid, feminine, colored energy.
Thank you, Ascara.
So be it. We are the one called Kilgon, and it is a great pleasure to share our energy with you. You are curious about the aspect of self-sabotage, so let us address it. Imagine that at some point in time, each of you had an experience where your fear was so intense that you decided that you could not handle it yourself. And perhaps you called upon others with their power to induce some sort of agreement that you might use to increase your power. And in the process, perhaps, you gave up something. Our specialty is to remove that agreement. So we would like for each of you to take a moment and imagine that the bands of restriction are being cut away with a surgical instrument of your own making and your own liking. And as those bands of restriction are cut away from your solar plexus, you are feeling an amazing sense of freedom and liberation. And just breathe. And now imagine 3 bands around your heart, again, being removed surgically by this very precise sort of instrument that you are wielding, and you are cutting away those bands of restriction. And breathe. And imagine those bands are literally being elevated, evaporated out into the atmosphere, and they are being converted by the angelic realm into usable light. And breathe. And now you have a sense of freedom, a feeling of ability. In other words, the reasons for what you will call your failure have been removed. A sort of self-induced curse, if you will, that you have no need of any longer. And breathe that freedom into your lungs, into your chest, into your heart, and into your solar plexus. That is our purpose. That is what we are all about. And that is where we come from, so to speak. And those who have felt possessed, those who have felt demonized, and those who could not understand or explain where that feeling came from, should find that this experience will help them release all of that self-limiting energy of self-hatred and open themselves up to an experience of self-love, unlimited, unconditional self-love, as expressed by the one called Sananda. And breathe. We recognize your time constraints, and if there is one last question you wish to ask of us, we will do our best to answer it quickly.
Thank you, Kilgan, for showing up with us today. I appreciate that exercise. I felt it very strongly as I was doing it. You said that you come from the place to help us cut those constraints of self-sabotage. So where is that place? I'm trying to understand it.
In your imagination, you would call it hell. A self-imposed kind of hell. There is no hell. Hell is an imaginary thing in the minds of human beings. However, there are many who believe in hell. They need to believe in it because it is a sort of punitary place to go. It's a way for some to control behavior, so to speak. No one wants to burn in everlasting hell.
Right.
However, the hell that one creates, again, is self-imposed. So it is our job and our desire, our service, if you will, to remove those self-imposed limitations and restrictions, and to create what some might call heaven on earth. That's what many of you seek.
Mm-hmm. Is that why you showed up now? Because many of us are asking.
It is precisely why. And the Venusians asked us to remove any fear that we might be able to remove. And that is a huge part of the energy that many of you have just released.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate that, and I'll have to have you on when I can talk with you more, since we are constricted by time. So
Indeed
thank
you
you. Thank you, Kilgan. Can have Gregory have his body now.
You will indeed. I'm back.
That was cool. So I don't know if you know that Kilgun is the surprise guest, which I kind of had a feeling that he was going to be the anonymous guest. So that was really cool.
Well, it's all perfect, as they say.
Yeah, it is. And I said I'm just saying him because that's how I feel the energy, but it doesn't mean that that's what it is. We'll have to come back when I can actually ask some questions with more time. That was pretty cool. And he did an exercise. He did a cord cutting exercise for us. So that was nice. That was really cool.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, Gregory, as always, you guys, you just got to go to GregoryPossman.com and you can schedule a session with him. He's amazing. Thank you. As
You're
always,
so welcome.
love having you. And when I get back from my trip, we'll do another show together.
Have an awesome journey.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave. And I'm wishing everyone a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Peace.